Here we are. How are you, Carissa?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm looking at your beautiful blue sunny sky and I'm remembering how much I loved Arizona.
Yeah, and this is the nice cool part of Arizona. It's only about like 75 out here, so it's not hot. Hence this. It's sweater weather finally.
Oh yeah, I can see all the beautiful fall colors in the background there. That's so lovely.
Yeah. I love my backyard.
Are you is it kind of suburbia? Are you in a
I'm
suburb?
yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of town, but like I'm in a kind of a smaller cul-de-sac off the side, so it's pretty quiet back here. You're gonna hear a little bit of construction. They're building a school just catty corner for me right now, but
Well, it's
yeah.
very, very nice to see
So
you. I
yeah.
I don't know anything about your testimony at all. Just a minute ago, Chris and I were trying to remember where we knew each other from and like kind of look through our mutual friends, and there's no obvious ministry or Facebook group. We can't really trace back the origins of how we know each other. But I do remember it's been quite a while that we've been in touch. I just remember having a conversation with you about wearing a tank top. Is that possible? Did we have that conversation like 2 years ago or something like that?
I've spoken to so many new people over the last few years because of this walk that possibly.
That sticks out in my
But
head. I
Mhm.
remember, and I could be totally off. Otherwise, I have no idea. And then you just came up on my timeline the other day, and I thought, oh, yeah, I remember this girl. I don't know why I remember her, but she looks so happy and beautiful on camera. And I just want to know everything that she's going to offer us. So that's my introduction, and I would love to know where you are on your walk right now. And I know you have quite a long testimony, quite a big testimony. I have no idea if you were in church, New Age, and I do that on purpose. I really like just being a surprise. Um, so the
Yeah.
questions are authentic, and I'm not pretending or anything like that. But mostly, I'll just let you talk. Let us know who you are, and I think you mentioned that you're a wife and a mom, and you all have been
Yeah.
on this walk for a minute.
Yeah. My husband and I have been on this walk for about 5 years now. Yeah, so and it all actually started with flat Earth, ironically. As far as the Torah path part of that. And I know a lot of people have beef with that, but it's fine. It just brought me to believing the Bible for what the Bible says and not trying to put what I've been taught by human beings like other people to influence that. And so it just helped me to really put all of my faith and know that God means what he says.
It's so funny
Like,
because, excuse me, the other day I had put a post on Facebook saying something about how there's more doctrines and more like bad junk doctrine in the Torah world than there is even in the Christian church. And then
yeah.
I took that as an invitation to just like say what they thought was junk doctrine.
Mhm.
And so much came up about flat earth.
Mhm.
And like I was thinking that the majority of Bible readers I know believe in biblical cosmology, but then there was
Yeah.
all of these Torah people who were making fun of
Mhm.
other Torah people who
Yeah.
believed in biblical cosmology. I was like, whoa, this is
And I
weird.
think that's crazy because it's not a salvation issue. It's just something you search out for yourself and either you sorry, I'm getting notifications. Either you either that's something that calls to your spirit or it's not. But like what shape you think the earth is not going to affect your salvation. So like if people have beef with it, that's cool. It's fine.
And you do see, like, I was wondering how many secular people come from, atheism to flat earth to the Bible versus how many Christians ever go. You know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah. Yep.
truther movement and biblical cosmology really brings people into actually studying the Bible. So I,
It
I think
really
it's
does.
incredible. And for
It
anybody
was
to
crazy.
make fun
Like,
what is the entry point for people to
mhm.
actually open up the word is a little bit
It's like, just be glad they're here. Like,
mm,
good grief, quit tearing each other apart about how you got here.
mm.
That was
What
kind
did
of
that
what
look
I,
like? Were you in some kind of group and then somebody was talking about biblical cosmology and that led you to
no,
from the beginning
so,
or
so where it came, like, actually, I guess, if we go a little bit further back, it actually started with a marriage certificate. If I track it back further to why we even started like doubting what the government says and what science says and all this stuff, because my husband and I were getting ready to get married and we had been looking into what some of those government contracts entail. And we knew we wanted that when we got married, we wanted to have a baby right away. But we were like, we want to know really what these contracts involve. And when we found out that the marriage certificate is what gives the state basically custody of your child, we were like, abso-flippin-lutely not. And we looked into what we ended up doing is we have a family Bible. It's this big, beautiful, leather-bound, gold-leafed, beautiful Bible that we have a marriage certificate in the front. We had a ceremony. We had a regular wedding. All our family and friends came, but instead of having a marriage certificate, like a state-issued one, we have it in the Bible. And that is binding, a legally binding document in all 50 states for anybody that's wondering. When I walked into Social Security to get my last name changed and I just had my big Bible with me, I was getting the funniest looks, and I got asked multiple times. I'm like, this is my marriage certificate. And they looked at me like I was just the weirdest person in the world. But when I got back to the lady and I was like, yeah, I'm changing my last name, she didn't hesitate. She's like, yep, legally binding document, doop, 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 done. And
I had no
got my last
idea.
name.
That's
Yeah. The
wild.
Bible is a legally binding document in all 50 states. So that's what we did. And we went forward, and the state of Arizona has nothing to do with it. So that is a binding contract between me, my husband, and the Lord, and that's all that needed to be included. So, time went on, and we had found various other things that were crooked in different contracts, like banking and yada yada yada. And fast forward, I was actually just laying in bed with Eliana. She was maybe about 6 months old, and Ryan was on the computer in his office, and he loves deep dive and stuff. And he came into the bedroom and he was like, babe, you're going to think I'm a little crazy, but I think the earth is flat. And I was like, what? And I got genuine, like a spike of fear, because I was like, my husband's correct. He's gone nuts. Oh no, like what happened? But I've always been if you show me the facts and it's logical and like it can be backed up with proof, done. Like I got it. And so he showed me this like 2-hour movie by Eric Dubay, and he was doing what the cult of science says versus what actual science says. And he just did it for every single thing. And I was like, oh my word, the freaking earth is flat. Like, and then we found Rob Skiba, and then that's how we got into Torah, because he was talking about Torah, and it just went, and it just went from there. We got rid of Christmas and Easter and all of that stuff like right
That
after that.
that man,
And
bless
oh,
that man. So he was way before my time on this walk.
I
Uh,
loved
amount-
Rob Skiba.
the amount of people that he brought to the truth. And if I'm not mistaken, he was not always caring too much about biblical cosmology. Like I think he was
No,
always teaching that.
not in the very beginning. No, he was like in the military and all that stuff, and it was him and his wife that got led on that walk, and he was an amazing human being, and it was so sad to hear of his passing. I'm just glad that he's at rest, and but man, he touched who knows how many people. Like,
And the sort of people who I'm thinking of different ministries that I know who clearly were very much their eyes were opened by Rob, right? And then the
mhm,
of people that trickled
yeah,
out. It's like this
yeah.
trickling down
hmm
effect.
Like
And
Nathan Reynolds and Adam Fink from Parable of the Vineyard and stuff like that, because we followed a lot of Adam's Bible studies, his Torah studies and stuff. And there's always the thing that I've had to learn, and I learned pretty early on, thankfully, was you're never going to agree with 100% of what goes on with somebody's opinions, even though like you might agree with 90% of what they're showing you. Because the thing I loved about Adam, and that I love about Adam, is that it's always Bible. Like he's like, if you can't find it in the Bible, then no, you know? And so we really learned a lot from following his videos. I know there was drama involved there, but I'm like, not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm not here for the interpersonal little things that happen behind the scenes. I'm just here for the word message. Um, you know. 119 Ministries was another one that was super helpful.
Yeah, they're
Um,
very not on the biblical cosmology though. I've seen people
no, they're not.
that
And like I said,
that
like they
camp
have all
actually
this other
shame
stuff.
and make fun of.
They
It's
do. And but they do have some really good breakdowns for people that are
oh,
new to the
absolutely.
walk. They
Yeah.
have some fantastic videos for people who are new on the walk. And so um but I've noticed that and it's in the Christian community too, but in the Torah community, it kind of surprised me to see people going like, oh, well, this person believes this, so they're a false teacher, yada yada. And I'm like,
Oh, you see it again and again. And I just
and I'm
keep
just
coming
like,
back to like what you're saying, you're not going to find the perfect teacher. I would
no.
rather I choose teachers based on their fruit and like how I
Hmm.
see them treating other people.
Yep.
And if we don't have 100% matched up on beliefs, it doesn't matter. I can still listen to an entire sermon and learn so much because these people have been at it for a long time. And
Yeah.
I think if you do find somebody who you agree with 100% of the time, you might be in a cult. It's like,
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, a little bit. And I was raised Mormon, so I can tell you all
oh
about how that
yeah, tell me
works.
all about that.
Oh my goodness. I will say first and foremost, this is not a bash on the individual members of that religion. Like there are some beautiful human beings that really truly do believe in Jesus the way that they understand him. And I'm not coming at them at all, but um that church and that group, whatever we want to call it, um there is a lot of manipulation and so much twisting of the word that it is just, and even as a kid, I was catching on to that, but I would get in trouble for asking questions. It was, oh, just that's just what the prophet said. So just like you don't question it, you
So were
know?
you raised from the very beginning? And is there a branch of Mormonism? I actually just watched Jesse and I watched a documentary about this one branch where the prophet is actually in jail right now for pedophilia, something like
Oh,
this.
it's probably the fundamentalist
Yeah,
LDS
yeah,
people, yeah. And
yeah.
so they do still do polygamy and all that stuff. And but that's the original root of that faith.
Uh-huh.
So the polygamy and the pedophilia and the occult rituals and all of that stuff is the original way that was all done, and it's still the way things are done in the temples. I had the unfortunate experience of doing one of those baptisms for the dead when I was 14.
Could you, I
Um,
don't know what you're talking about. I know nothing
so
about this. So whatever.
okay.
So, but
This is
when
gonna.
I was down in Arizona or over in Arizona, out in Arizona,
Mhm.
we were close to Utah as well, where I know, okay, you just start and tell me everything. I don't know any of this.
So, so what there's this belief in the Mormon faith that you can be baptized for people who are dead. Doesn't have to be related to you. Doesn't have to be anybody you've ever known. It is necromancy. It is straight up necromancy. They what they do, and especially the fact that they involve 14-year-old children, in this ceremony. Like anybody over that age can do it, but when they start you at that age, when you don't know, um, what you're really doing. There's this huge marble tub sitting on the back of 12 golden cows, okay, or brass cows, whatever they make them out of. Should be a huge red flag already. Like, oh, like golden cow, Israel and getting out of Egypt. We're not making the connection. Oh my goodness. But they tell you, I'm baptizing you in the name of so and so, and they dunk you. And then I'm baptizing you in the name of so and so, and they dunk you. And they believe that they are preaching to people in the afterlife and that these people are agreeing to be baptized into the Mormon faith because Mormons believe they're the only ones getting to heaven. Or at least the MLM top tier version of heaven. So there's a ranking system. It's a pyramid, just like the Masons. This is where it comes from. And you have the celestial kingdom at the top, and they believe that when they get to the celestial kingdom, that the men get their own planet. They believe that God was once a man who has like transcended into godhood. They believe that Jesus and Satan are brothers. Um, it it's icky. It's pretty bad. There's a lot of Do we got it?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself and I
It's
muted
okay.
instead.
It's
The
okay. I was like,
last said was it's icky.
it's icky. Yeah, it's icky. There's too much twisted doctrine. There's
Yeah. But
nothing,
how
all of these things you can't
many
find in the
years
Bible.
were you in this from like birth until
Hmm. Yeah, I was in it until um I well this brings into another like chunk of my testimony. I when I was 17, I had been going through my mom at the time during my childhood from like 5 years old until I was 15 was married to a pedophile. Um, and so I had been going through a lot of obviously terrible things in that regard. And then when the divorce went, there was just more chaos. And needless to say, a man that was older than me when I was 16, 17, saw a very vulnerable, self-conscious, desperate girl that wanted male attention because I had never had a good male role model. Not like I didn't have a father figure really. And so he preyed on that and he intentionally got me pregnant when I was 17. And I was the poster child for that, like, oh, if you love me, you'll do this. Like when they teach you as a girl, like, oh, never do that with a boy, like it's different when you're being abused and this person has like love bombed you and told you like, oh, I'll protect you and I'll pull you away from these people who are so mean to you. And then you get sucked into that and it's like, well, if you love me, you'll do this. And if you love me, you'll do this. And so I ended up pregnant, dropped out of my senior year. Um, and that baby was born with Down syndrome when I was 18. And that at the time felt like I was already dealing with anger towards God because I didn't. The Mormon Church teaches you that, like, basically the bad things that happen to you are like punishments for sins and things like that. And so I was like, what in the heck did I ever do? Like, what is this? And a few months into, I tried to care for her. She ended up in Phoenix and had just so many diagnoses that I didn't know what to do with. Um, and it was during that was the first time I ever, and really the only time I've ever audibly heard the voice of God. And it's because my ex was already abusive to me, but then he started abusing the baby. And so I had taken her into the room I was staying in at the time, and I was just sobbing and I was just praying. And I was like, what in the world do you want from me? Like, how am I supposed to do this? And I heard him say, call your Uncle Jeremy and ask him to adopt her. I had not even considered adoption. I didn't, that was just, I thought I was just, this was just it, you know? And I was just shocked because I was like, what in the heck? Me and my Uncle Jeremy had kind of had a little bit of a rough relationship for a little while, just family stuff. It wasn't anything crazy, but um, I called him and I was like, this is going to be the weirdest call you've ever got in your whole life. But I'm like, will you adopt Maisie for me? I can't do this. I don't know what to do. Um, and instead of hearing, like, I was anticipating like shock, even like disgust, shame, any of that. And I just got some silence for a second. And then he was like, me and Meg are going to go pray about this and I'll call you back. Well, when he hung up, I'm thinking days, right? I'm like, this is a huge decision. You're bringing a not just a baby, but a disabled baby into your life. But it wasn't even 20, 30 minutes later. And they called me and they're like, we're going to get it set up and we're going to adopt her from you. And that adoption went beautifully, went perfectly smooth. And since then, she's gotten all of the therapies and the surgeries and anything and everything else she's needed. She actually just graduated just a little bit ago. Um, so at the time, what I thought was like the worst thing in the world ended up being such a blessing because about a year after she was adopted, I tried to unalive myself and failed, thankfully, by the grace of God. And he told me, and I got the Holy Spirit was like, you need to call your grandma and have her come get you. And I did. And so my grandma, bless her heart, I'm so thankful for her to this day. Her and my uncle Chris drove at like midnight, 3 hours from Phoenix. They drove in, picked me up, and took me home. Um, and I was able to like file for divorce and stuff. That was a little messy. It took like 2 years for me to get rid of that guy, but um, I spent the rest of that time after I got home. Um, I was living with my grandparents, and they really didn't like that I didn't want to go to church. I tried going a couple of times, and I just felt nasty there.
Were they in a more normal church? Were they going to?
No, they're Mormon. They're Mormon. They wanted me to go back to church. They wanted, and I went back home, same place I'd grown up in, same people I'd grown up with. Um, Mind you, all of those people, while my mom was going through her divorce and stuff, those people said awful things about us, said that we were lying. They were defending the guy that had done this stuff to us. Even the bishop was calling us liars and all of this stuff. And I just remember asking my mom, and I was like, well, in the Mormon faith, there's this thing where you get sealed in the temple to this person for eternity, and you're like tied to their fate. And so I was like, okay, well, he's a pedophile, so he can't get to heaven. So does that mean I'm going to hell with him and it's not my fault? And I never got clear answers. They just gaslit me into like, oh, that's not how this works. And I'm like, well, then explain it, right? You're telling me that my fate is tied to this person that I'm supposedly eternally sealed to, and so I was like, okay, so then does he get a free pass to go to heaven because of us? Like, no, that's not how that works. But there was never a biblical answer for any of it, and that just made me hate it, and it made me so angry because I was like, I'm being lied to, and I know I'm being lied to, but I don't know how I'm being lied to. And so, I spent my early 20s, I was raging alcoholic because I didn't know how to deal with anything. Um, Ended up almost homeless a couple times, went through just a bunch of nonsense. Um, but thankfully, God planted my husband in my life. Like, just, I didn't pick him. A coworker I had at the time I was selling cars was like, hey, I know this guy who's got a son that's about your age that I think you'd really like. And he's super nice, and he's got a good job, and he's got a house. And I'm like, what's wrong with him? I was like, something's wrong. Like, if he's my age and has a house and has his life together, something's broken, you know? But that's not what happened. It ended up being just we met, and we didn't start dating right away. We kind of texted for a little bit, and it was about 6 months later. I hadn't been able to get him out of my head. But when I went to go and text him again, his phone number was gone. I just had the old coworker's number. And so I called him, and I was like, Larry, I need Ryan's phone number. And he gave me Ryan's mother's phone number because he didn't have Ryan's. So growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, we're used to calling and asking people's parents for the kids, right? And so I called Darla, and I was like, hey, sounds weird. I promise I'm not scary. Like, can I have Ryan's phone number? Needless to say, she was not going to give me his phone number. She gave my number to him. He called me. We ended up playing 2,000 questions via text and stuff for a couple of months. And then we started dating, and we've been together for almost 15 years since then. But God put Ryan in my life because Ryan's the one who led me out of, he pulled me out of that need of like needing different guys' attention. Like he made me feel safe, and like I finally knew what Christ-like love was for the first time ever. And so like just the relationship with me and my husband has been a huge boost in my faith.
So when you met him, he was already a Christian, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
he was raised Lutheran. So yeah, he was raised Lutheran, and he was like his family wasn't active or anything. They didn't really go to church except for on like Christmas and Easter kind of thing. Um, but we didn't really start pursuing truth until we were starting to get married, and we're like, wait a second, like we need to quit goofing around, and we need to quit all these freaking bad habits we've got that just are bad for us, and hanging out with these people that are not good for us. And we just slowly started pulling bad things out of our life. And it just, as that happened, we didn't know really. I mean, we had no way of knowing that God was just kind of hugging
You were
us.
being sanctified without, you were kind of being sanctified
Yeah.
before this massive commitment to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful because now I can look back and like the things that used to just like churn my stomach and make me mad and go like, why did that happen? And I think back and I'm like, the 14, 15-year-old teenager that was crying nightly, begging for God to let me not wake up the next morning and saying, please let me go home.
Mm.
And then he brought us all this way to put us on a path for me to get home. Like, uh, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, he answered my prayer. It's been 20 years later now, but that like bring me home. Like I get to go home. Like, yay.
It's go meet
So
Rob Skiba.
yes, like thank you, Rob Skiba. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, all of these people that like just made it so simple because church just confuses people. I mean, when you twist the words and it's like, okay, in this chapter I'm reading that pork is bad and you're not supposed to eat it. Oh, but all of a sudden, all the way back here, this dream this guy had is supposedly going to make all food clean. What the heck? Like, how do you? But God says His word is forever. So how do you mush the two? And then people go, oh well, forever means something different to God. And I'm like,
Do you
wait
think
a
that's because, Carissa, people like you and I read the Bible more literally than like a lot of other places are like
I
I feel
think
like it's a very
so. I think,
literal interpretation of what
yeah.
it's why there's no twisting. You're like, okay, but that's not what the Bible says. What does the Bible
And
say?
I think they do that because Messiah spoke in parables
Yeah.
and then they just want to go and make the rest of the Bible a parable. And it's like, that's not true. The Bible is a historical document
Yeah.
and it is inspired by the Holy Spirit. And like God said what he said and he meant what he said. Like it's not that difficult in my brain. And I don't say that in a mocking way to other people, but I was the person that justified the Christmas and the Easter and the pork and the shellfish and all this stuff. And I look back and I'm like, dude, I had no foot to stand on. None of that
When
was
did that
biblical.
when did that change? Like you guys got together, you started cleaning your life up in terms of
Mhm.
partying or whatever stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
I know you also have kids. Do you have kids together?
One. We just one. We just have Eliana. She's 9. She'll be 10 in February. And Eliana actually means my God has answered in Hebrew. And I didn't know that I was going to be on this walk when I named her that. So super cool. Just love the little nuggets that God has left for me like along the way that I just kind of find and go, you're just freaking awesome. Like,
You've
oh my
always been
gosh.
his, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's had his hand
Like,
on you through all of
mhm.
the horrible things that you experienced, and
Yep.
so many people. I was I have a number of clients, and one has a heart for Jesus. She just doesn't know it yet. And she
Yeah.
was raised in the Catholic Church. So she's
Mhm.
wrecked. She's
Oh,
ruined
she's,
in terms of
yeah.
understanding what
Yeah.
is in the Bible. And every so often she'll like today she was saying she's a bit tired. She has an illness and um she said, sometimes I want to go to paradise. Paradis is, I
Mm-hmm.
guess the English word would be heaven. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, you can't get there without Jesus, right?
No.
She gets like, oh, she kind of sighs. Why? What do you mean? And then I, kind of walk her, well, you have to, she hasn't fired me yet because I evangelize once a week to her and try to help her understand that just
Mm-hmm.
because you're a good person doesn't mean
Right.
going to the kingdom. You have to give your life
Mhm.
to him. So what is,
Yeah.
so she asked me loads of questions today and it was really
Yes.
a really I can't remember why I decided to tell you that. What did you say just before I was talking? Were you talking about the little nuggets and
Yeah, just the little pieces that God has left throughout my whole life where if I look back and I look through the lens of Messiah and his provision and his safety, where I'm like, holy cow, you were there like the whole time. Like when I didn't think you were there and I was crying and screaming in the dark and I didn't know what the heck was going on and he was just there crying and screaming with me. Like, like, oh, I struggled with daddy issues my whole life. Father's Day was always a really, really sore subject for me. I hated it, you know,
But don't you
because
think
I,
that
and
that ends up being a tricky thing for us to actually end
yes,
up having the good shepherd and having like a masculine figure God, you know? Like
yes.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of women who have daddy issues, myself included, go toward like goddess
Mhm.
worship and like we
I
want to.
went through New Age for a hot second. I went through New Age for about 2 years. Thankfully, because I was seeing the Reiki healing, right? And seeing the meditation classes. And you see the word meditation in prayer or
Right.
in the Bible. And I was like, meditation. Okay. Well, the people that I went to meditation class with when I started, the girls who were leading it were like talking about God and Jesus's love. And it felt really good at first. And it felt like I was like, cool. But then like it just got a little weirder like every single time. And finally it got to where I had a full on altercation with a demon in a meditation. And this was hands down the craziest spiritual experience I have ever had because we sat down in a circle for meditation and there was like a 10-year-old 12-year-old kid next to me that they said was a medium and they said that he could see spirits and he straight up told this one woman about her grandmother being in the room and all of this and at the time I didn't know that the dead couldn't talk and all of this stuff and so I was like that's really crazy what the heck and a few minutes later I felt like a weird presence walking towards the front door of the building and I looked over before and then the door opens and this man walks in and he just came in with like this really heavy presence and even the lady that was leading the meditation was you could tell she was like immediately on guard but they were trying to be this like inclusive like don't kick anybody out like bring everybody in kind of thing and um he refused to sit on the floor with us. He pulled a chair over and was like, he was talking about how he was like this like Reiki meditation practitioner guru guy. And he was just seeing how things work here on the mountain or whatever. And um, he just had I was like, something's up. But when she started the meditation, as soon as I actually got into a meditative state, all of the sudden I am decked from head to toe in this brilliant white and silver armor and I've got a sword in my hand and I've got a shield here and where the guy is sitting this black monster just like lunges at me and all of a sudden I have an angel to my left and an angel to my right and I'm literally like pounding on this thing and trying to get like a kill shot on this monster that's attacking me and I hit him in the chest. I hit this thing in the chest with my sword, and the guy coughed at the same time, and I heard it with my physical ears. And as soon as I do that, and the blackness just kind of like fizzles away, and the meditation ended. Like she ended the meditation right after that. And the guy like is glaring at me when I open my eyes and I look over, and he's glaring at me, and he's like, "This is not the place for me," and he left. And the meditation instructor looks at me and goes, "What in the heck just happened?" She's like, "I felt something crazy, but I couldn't see what was going on." And I broke it down for her. And I still to this day, I'm like, that was 100% real. Um, that was, I've never been into the spirit world before, but I shouldn't have been there. And I'm thankful that Yah sent protection to help me. Um, but it was not long after that I ended up getting a demonic attack in my house. And I got sleep paralysis in my house, and that was really scary. And I started to realize that like I was on a very dangerous and slippery slope, and I didn't actually understand what the heck I was involved in. Um, I tried to go back a couple more times, and the meditations got really weird because the lady that was leading it was talking about leprechauns and fairies and how she was like seeing these things and interacting with these beings and all of this stuff. And at the time, I'm like, okay, that's weird. I'm done. Like, and it started turning into Christ consciousness instead of Jesus. And started turning into the universe instead of God. And I was like, oh no, I'm in the wrong spot. And God sent me a dream that made me not ever go back. And I was almost pulled into a pit. And I was almost pulled into a fiery pit. I walked up in this dream, I walked up and saw this really just freaky looking guy sitting in a chair. And something in me knew that was Lucifer, and he's laughing at me, and this pit falls up underneath my feet, and I start falling, and I'm trying to clamber out. And somebody, I don't know who it was, I can't, like, I didn't see it in the dream, just a hand reached down and pulled me up and out of the pit. And I was like, I'm done with meditation and stuff. And I'm like, I'm freaking out. This is not good. I'm
So where was
no
that?
bueno.
Where was that on your timeline? Had you
So
met
this
Ryan
was
or?
yeah, so this was actually right before Torah. So this was Eliana was little still. Um and I hadn't fully gone into Torah. I was into like the flat earth and stuff, but I was still learning that. I was still going through that. So it was kind of, when I think back, it's kind of hard to like line everything up because I feel like everything just stacked on top of each other. But it was during while I was trying to figure stuff out, and it only lasted about 2 years, thankfully. Um and then, but it took me a long time to get rid of like pendulums and tarot cards, and like I wasn't using them, I just had them in my house.
Mhm.
um and about 2 years ago actually is when I finally realized, I was like, I need to dig all this stuff out and burn it and like torch it. I burned all my Harry Potter books. Like, I mean, I freaking scorched earth with everything in my house that just felt new agey and icky. And I kept a lot of my crystals because I was like, these are rocks from God. Like when I think about crystals, I think about like when God made the foundations of the earth, he knew I was going to find this rock and that I like pretty rocks. And so I just think of them as little gifts from him. They're not powerful. They don't have anything to them. But anything that was shaped like a pendulum or anything like that, I yeeted it outside. So, um, but yeah, that new age stuff, that is crazy. They lure you in and it feels so good at first, and then it just like barbs into you and
I see
you end
too,
up with
like you, I
so
don't
many
know if
problems.
you've seen that then Torah sometimes then morphs into like Kabbalah, which then
Mm-hmm.
will go right there and then
Gets
they're.
into Kabbalah mysticism stuff. Yeah, it gets into
And
some
that's the new
really
age.
weird stuff.
That's
Uh-huh.
just circles right
Mm-hmm.
back. I'm out of the new age and I still have a hard time with rocks and crystals and vibrations. Like when we start
Yeah.
talking about the vibrational properties of linen and wool, I'm like, oh, I can't, there's a lot of subjects I can't go near yet because even though, the enemy can't create anything, he just borrowed
No.
a lot of stuff and I grew up, my whole life was in the new age. So I still have all these,
Yeah.
I almost look at a beautiful geode or a crystal and I kind of
Mhm.
recoil still. Whereas
Yeah.
my
And
husband, who's
that's,
never in that world, he loves them. He thinks they're beautiful. He sees
yeah.
them in a different way.
Yeah. And I think that's just because everybody is going to have different things that are not meant for them, and things that some people can handle and some people cannot. We're not all made the same. And this is the thing that has been irritating the heck out of me, is that I've noticed that a lot of Torah people tend to be like people that live like way out, like they're like off grid and things like that. And I'm like, that's great for them. But then they like hate on the people who live in town and cities and things like that. And they're like, oh, you're not doing it. And it's like, we're not all meant to be. Hold on. God didn't make us all farmers. There's farmers and construction workers and people that are supposed to have office jobs that do math and handle numbers and paperwork. And like, we're all meant to do different jobs in this world the way that it is. We're all meant to have different places and spaces in this world. There's a young gentleman that I follow on Instagram, and he walks into like strip clubs and furry conventions and preaches the gospel to people. You couldn't send a Christian man that struggles with porn into those spaces, right? Like, but God makes certain people that have the strengths and the resistances to those things to put them in those spaces to go and be fishers of men. Like,
Man, that is such
you
a
know,
healthy attitude
so
to have instead of
yeah,
trying to put everybody into a cookie cutter of what a
no.
Torah person is supposed to be.
Like like my husband and I, we love video games. That's what we've done since we were little kids, right? And I, I've met a lot of really cool people, and you have space to preach the gospel to people there too. Like those are people that might not ever hear it outside of some person they just played a video game with.
Well, that's it. And there's such a
And
tendency to isolate ourselves and to how do you shine your light? That client that I was saying was talking to was asking me about holidays and stuff. She's like, well, do you still think that the 25th is Jesus' birthday? I was like, well, no, I
no, not
absolutely
even
don't.
close.
And she's like, well, what do I want to say? I was trying to explain to her how sometimes people find this path and then they cut all of their links with everybody who doesn't believe like they do. So then, if you boycott every Thanksgiving dinner or if you boycott everything, you never really have the chance to shine your light to people who may have the chance to actually understand the way that, you know what I mean? I think it's
Right.
we're in spaces where there are other people who have different beliefs, even though it can be contentious and hard and like you don't want to go to a
Yes.
church barbecue where everybody's eating sausages.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And that's the thing is, like we haven't done Christmas, Easter, in 5 years now, something like that. That first Christmas that I gave up was actually really hard for me because I was still battling with that. I'm taking the magic away. I'm ruining your childhood. But now at 9 years old, she's like, ew, I don't want any of that. She's like, Sukkot's way more fun, or, we just, we made a point to never lie to her anyways. So even if we were going to be doing those holidays, we weren't going to be doing the Santa and the Easter Bunny and all, and the Tooth Fairy and all of this nonsense. Um, and, she's fine. That kid loves her life. She's happy as can be.
Well,
And she just,
the funniest thing ever was so my kids are now 14 and 12, and
yeah.
I had a tree up at certain points, but
Mhm.
I never did the Santa Claus lie because I often think that's one of the reasons I am the truther that I am, is that I found out about Santa Claus. My parents always
Mhm.
did the big thing, and I found out they were lying, and then like I never trusted
Yeah.
anybody ever again. So I
Right.
never did it, and I remember my mom being horrified that I was ruining the magic, as you say.
Right.
I remember my daughter at like 5 or something. She's like, "Mommy, why do other parents lie to their kids?" And I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know, and
Right.
I also remember saying to like my mom, I was like, I've got loads of Jewish friends who've never done Christmas and they're
Mhm.
okay. Like everything's gonna be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like for her, throughout the year we buy her things just sporadically, just because we love her. We'll take, and we just get her stuff here and there. And
But is
so she
that
doesn't
you,
have to wait.
Marie?
She
Did I find a rare gem who's actually on the same biblical calendar as I am? Does your feast start tonight?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
everyone's
Yeah.
been
So
feasting for days and days.
we
And even
yeah.
yesterday, and I got a message from
Well,
my
yes, no.
friend.
So technically, we started last night. Technically, we started last night.
Okay.
So, because then we're actually getting together with our little fellowship to do the wedding feast on the 8th day of Sukkot next week.
Nice.
So I'm super
Okay, so
excited about that.
you have people
I
talk to me
do.
about
We've got a little group of people that Yah has brought together over the last about, what's it been? 2 months? Yeah. So it's just been about 2 months. We've been driving back and forth between each other's houses and the park in between for Bible studies. They live like an hour, almost an hour and a half from us, but we still, we drive there, and then in the middle of the week we meet in between, and then they come here, and it's been beautiful. And it's just this little tiny Bible study group, and it's slowly adding one or two people here and there. When we did trumpets, we actually hosted a feast up here, and we had 17 adults and we had this big beautiful meal, and we all blew the shofar and we read scripture, and it was just phenomenal. The kids all used, we had made these little shofars out of little party blowers, so when they were blowing their shofars it sounded like a bunch of rubber chickens. I know God was laughing his butt off at that because it's just like little rubber chicken sounds. But like it was beautiful. It was
Oh,
just
that's so amazing. I am
so
so
fun.
happy for you. You know how precious that is, right?
Yeah.
It's just like I think every year. So this is my second fall festival season, but like last year I had no idea at all what
Yeah.
was going on. And then even this year seeing how many people that it's their first year, it's like it is
Mhm.
just we know that it was prophesied that people would start to wake up and come back to the old path. And it's like
Yes.
to see it actually developing in front of your own
It's,
eyes and like the
it's
fact
literally
that we
spreading
are
like fire.
we're scattered for a reason, right? And then hopefully
Yes.
you start to have little pools of people around you. And I'm
Mhm.
still very much on my own here,
Yeah.
but it's been such a blessing to like thankfully the internet is that is the good thing about it is that
Yes.
we can connect and meet each other and
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so cool. And my husband and I joke all the time. We're like, the bad guys messed up when they gave us the internet. They really goofed up when they gave us the internet because now you have access to all the information, you have
yeah, we
access to all
can
the
use
people.
it. We can use it for good. It is the flip
Yeah.
side of that, especially when you
Yep.
are a truther. It is the amount of rabbit holes. I'm trying to pull friends out of Satan's little season and pull friends
Right.
the serpent
Oh,
seed and pull friends out of,
yes.
you know, this the militant sacred name, all the
Oh
that
my
comes with
goodness. The
that.
sacred name stuff really just freaking grinds my gears because the sacred name thing, I'm like, with Christ in Revelations, it says that he comes back with a name on his thigh that none of us know. So to be honest, we're all freaking ignorant of what his actual name is. But the fact I still say Jesus, that's fine. Like, I'm like, I know who I'm talking about, and other people know who I'm talking about. I say Yeshua or Yahusha. I hear people say Yahushua. I'm like, that's fine, cool. I know who you're talking about. I'm not going to sit here and pick you apart for what you call him. You
Yeah,
know,
I have a hard
that's
time with that. It's the same with the calendar thing. I'm so the
I
we
won't
have
have
a
calendar
very
debates with
small
anybody.
online fellowship, and in that there's like three or four
Mhm.
different calendars, different names, different
Yep.
preferences,
Hmm.
and none of it is the be all end all important. None of it.
No, and I'm like, you know what? None of us really, we're just doing our best, man. Like that's all that y'all asked of us is to just do your best. And if you celebrated, tabernacles last week, cool. If you're celebrating it next week, okie dokie. Like you're doing it. You're doing it and you're doing it with the understanding that you have right now. It's just cool that you're even trying, you know? So I refuse to have a calendar debate with anybody. I'm
It's
like,
not fun. I just
I'm
don't
like, I'm not
find
gonna do
it
it.
interesting.
I'm like, for me, I'm like, when God said from evening to evening was the first day, I take him very literally, and that's just what it is. And people want to try and come up with all these different reasons for why that's not true. I'm gonna go with the evening to evening that he said like 7 different times for every day that he created the earth. That's what I'm gonna do. Like, but other people can do it different if they feel led to do that differently.
Yeah, the dawn to dawn people seem to be particularly loud and pushy though.
They are very cranky, and I'm just like, okay, be cranky if you feel like it, but I'm not doing it. I'm not entertaining it. I have no hard feelings against anybody that thinks different. I mean, I'm not even going to sit and argue with churchianity people. Like, if you ask me a question, I will answer you honestly. But if you're going to get antagonistic with me or start trying to get me with a gotcha question, I'm going to disengage. I'm not going to do that. That's the spirit of strife, and I'm not messing with it.
Bless you
Um,
for just sticking to the people who want to find the common ground, right? And
yeah.
the stuff that we can agree upon and to enjoy that
Mhm.
and to let the rest of it just
I think as long as we agree that we're supposed to walk like Messiah walks, the rest of it should just take care of itself, and we should just stop freaking nitpicking at each other because it's ridiculous and it's the opposite of what we're told to do.
amen.
It's an antichrist spirit working within a Christ-driven movement, and I'm not playing with that. So,
Oh man, I knew I
um,
liked you. I knew there was something about you. Um,
no, I was honored. It was so funny. So yesterday when I posted that video, um, I don't know if you saw the other couple ones that I did. God was like, I'm gonna have you posting content. And after I got out of MLM businesses and doing like unique and all of that stuff, I was like, I never want to freaking post content again. Like, blech. I was like, I don't want to do that. But he has just been like, yeah, 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 yeah. And so I was like, okay. And yesterday I was like, okay, I just am encouraged to like just post this. And I tried at first, my brain's like, oh, you don't have like you've got a zit here and your hair's messy. And like it was like all these little things. And I was like, no, I'm just gonna say what I feel like I need to say, and I'm just gonna hit post and I'm not even gonna rewatch it. I'm just gonna go. And you messaged me like 5 minutes later with this offer, and I was like, get out of town.
No, I think it's very, very clear that that went and you accepted immediately, and it was such a smooth, and here we are like 24 hours later. It doesn't always happen this smoothly. I think that it was absolutely, absolutely planned that we would have
Yeah.
this conversation tonight, and I'm so grateful. I feel like the time has flown by, and we just chatted a bunch more than I actually usually chat in these testimonies. So I think
I'm
I
glad I thrive in the back and forth. I don't like feeling like I've taken up all the time because I can be very, very, very chatty. And so I'm like, I don't want to, like, hold on, breathe, let somebody else talk.
Well, as long as you said everything that you feel that you would want to say in order to that we got your story. I mean, for me, my jaw just dropped hearing about some of the things you went through in your upbringing, and I think that this testimony just really glorifies the Father. I think, and that's
It
what
does.
we should
It's,
be. You know, I feel like
I'm
people
thankful
almost
for it.
like de-dramatize and remove some of the emotion around all of this stuff,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like separate from who you are now.
Yeah, and I was talking to my husband, I'm like, that's the dead Carissa before I was born again. That's dead Carissa. So I can talk about it freely and there's no pain, there's no triggers, there's no nothing attached to it. But I know that story needs to be heard because so many people that grow up, especially in churchianity, are sexually abused and manipulated, especially by the men in those religions, that it is, and it chases people away. I mean, so many people that I know are church hurt and want nothing to do with it. And they go, yeah, I know there's a God, but that's as far as I'm going to take it because I'm not messing with that
Is
religious
the
stuff.
enemy so crafty, right? He's so alive in the churches. And
Oh,
that's again what I was saying to that client today. I was like, I said, Jesus isn't in the church. That's not where
no,
he is.
that's not where he is because they are not there. It's not about him. It's about the people who are preaching. It's about the pastors. It's about, and the thing that, and then they want to say that the Old Testament's done away with, but then they'll still tell their people they have to pay tithing. Oh my gosh, the hypocrisy just makes me furious. And that's the thing. Like, I'm so thankful that I grew up in such a hypocritical, bass backwards religion because otherwise I'd probably still be stuck in it. Like, I'm thankful that I was given poor examples of Christ-like love in my life because I feel now when I look back, I'm like, if I had been given a kind earthly father, I probably would have idolized him and put him on a pedestal where he shouldn't have been. And I never would have met my true daddy. Like, I never would have actually made that connection of, like, no, I have a consistent, never failing, never moving father that is just there for me no matter what. Like, and me not having an earthly one just doesn't matter. It's fine. Like,
So
didn't need it.
that's how we cure our daddy issues is to
Yep.
find
It's
real.
to find a real daddy. That, you know, they want to call him Sky Daddy. Sure. I love my Sky Daddy. Like, he freaking provides absolutely everything for me. He's put a beautiful bubble of protection around my home and my family. And the thing is people want to think that this Torah movement is about earning salvation. And I'm just like, hold on though. If you just say you love somebody, that's not love. And then I'm like, my life is a perfect example of that. I had men in my life saying they love me while they abused, neglected, and just did just destroyed me. And I'm like, so this faith walk, I'm like, when you say you love God, you better start walking like it because you can say you love him with your mouth, but if you're out being a dirtbag all the time and then trying to claim Jesus as a way to like excuse your bad behavior, that's not going to work. And you're not going to be very happy with the end result of that. You can't just do lip service to your savior. That's love is action. It's not that we don't walk this out to get our salvation. It's like, you saved me. I love you. How do you want me to love you? That's how I love you. I'm going to do that. Like, to me, it's just so simple. It's like, and all I had to do was give up my going out on Saturdays and give up stressful, worldly, materialistic baloney holidays for ones that were just feasting and quiet with friends and family, and there was no pressure and no, and I'm like, and I'm seeing the fruits of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so
Really
easy. What is
robbed,
wrong with
right?
everybody?
We're really very robbed when we use
Yeah.
worldly
Oh,
holidays instead of the biblical holidays.
oh,
Robbed.
because it's terrible. I worked at a coffee shop for the year for about a year and a half. I quit about 4 months ago. I had a part-time job because God literally set that up for me. It was amazing. Our finances were getting a little bit tight, and um needless to say, I had tried to do another job that I would have been really good at, and I was getting ready to make a boatload of money on. But in order to do that, I would have had to lie and fudge the truth in order to make this money. And God gave me my own little parable, and he's like, okay, there's this path in front of you, and one path leads to all these cities and all this crazy, visually awesome looking stuff, and this other path just keeps going over a hill, and you don't know where the heck it's going. What are
Mm,
you gonna do?
mm.
And I was like, I'm gonna keep going that way. Like I was like, I'm gonna take that one. And that day that I made that decision, I went to my favorite coffee shop to go in and talk to a friend, and I just felt this encouragement to ask. I saw the owner walk in, and I was like, I felt this encouragement to ask her for a job. And I was like, hey, are you hiring? And she pretty much hired me on the spot. And I worked there for about a year and a half. And I worked over Christmas last year. And the amount of people that were like jealous of me for not doing Christmas, they were like, dude, that must be so nice. And I'm like, it freaking is. I'm like, I don't got to go into debt for a bunch of stuff for some people I don't really like all that much. I might love them, but I don't like them. I don't want to buy all these gifts and then have my value, like, feel like I'm valued based on what I brought and what I gave everybody. And just the stress and the anger and the frustration. And then I started thinking about, the what happens to the parents who can't afford to give their kids Christmas presents, and then they feel like they're failing as parents. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like the last thing that Jesus would want his birthday to be about. Are you crazy? Like, he doesn't want his birthday to be where the suicide freaking day of the year and all of this stuff. Like, no, that's not it. And judge them by their fruits. And I was just like, holy cow. Like, so I can either go do that, or I can do this feast that God said that is forever, that is actually so much more laid back and is prophetic of his son, instead of Christmas that you can't find in the Bible. Easter that you can't find in the Bible.
It's pretty
No.
clear when you break it down like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I was just like, man, I'm so glad I've always been like just a logical person. Just I'm like, show me the facts, and that's where I'm at. You know, did that with vaccines and all that stuff. So yeah, his truth is beautiful, and it's freeing, and it's just like, oh my goodness, you let the world go and so much of your problems go away. Like, it's awesome. I lost a lot of friends doing it, but were they actually friends? Not so much. Not in the long run. Um, Not if they weren't happy to see me healing and growing.
Hmm.
I'm like, he pulled them away. I went
In
through
quality, right? Like what you lose in quantity, you gain in quality.
yes. And
Those.
I was like, when I got rid of those toxic friendships and stuff, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And then I went through a little season of isolation for a little while where I didn't really have any friends. And then he just started putting people in my life. And it's been beautiful. It's been awesome. So,
Hallelujah. Thank you so
yeah.
much, Carissa. Thank you very,
Yeah.
very much. I'm so glad that we
Thank
got to
you.
speak and it all just was very, very fluid and it worked.
It's beautiful.
There were no snags or anything like that. And I've
No, no.
really, really great festival. When this comes out, when this comes out, people will probably be fighting about Christmas. That's probably the time frame around where that's going to
Right.
come. So
Yeah.
it will no longer be the Feast of Tabernacles. I hope you have, I cannot wait. I can't wait. And I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful time.
Yes, I hope you guys have a beautiful feast week as well.
Yeah.
And just thanks for inviting me. This was super cool.
And it was probably a bigger deal for you than you realize yet if you've been urged
Yeah.
to get on camera. And you did a great job, and you're so lovely, and you belong on
Oh, thank
camera.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank
I'm,
you.
I'm just grateful for the opportunity to do that because yeah, I know it'll do somebody somewhere some good.
It's it. If
So
there's one person who watches your testimony and says, "Oh my goodness, look how awesome and happy this girl is, and look how difficult it was for her when she was stuck in that mess."
yeah,
That's our testimonies are so powerful, even if it changes one person's mind about something. So thank you
and
so
it just
much.
shows somebody their value. That's all that it's meant to do. Hopefully, it just shows somebody that it doesn't matter what you've been through, doesn't matter what people tell you. Like God tells you everything you need to know about yourself. They say, I wish life came with a manual. It does. It really does, and it's beautiful. Read it front to back multiple times.
Yeah, start in Bereshit, start in the beginning.
Yes, start in the beginning and then go forward.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much,
My
Jenny.
pleasure.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. I will see you later. Have a good evening.
You too.